Hello, welcome to the Maverick Podcast. My name is Kay Money. Thank you for joining me today. I'll be talking with Evan Haines. He is a father of two and an extremely talented guitar player. Evan is a multifaceted guitar player based in the Northeast. Since he was 10 years old, his unique approach to playing and composing has led him to many fantastic places, performing in venues around the country, as well as recording in studios in Nashville and New York. Evan has performed with Sarah McLachlan, Sir James Galway, John Popper, Lisa Fisher, Matthew Morrison, Lorena McKennitt, Haley Westerna, Pete Kilpatrick, Lexi James, Tim Janis, Chuck Quinfield, and many others. Currently focused on his solo works, he is constantly evolving and developing his craft, exploring new sounds and textures in his home studio. His latest release, recorded in Portland, Maine, explores the world of Western film music and using traditional instrumentation weaves a tapestry of cinematic beauty that will leave you feeling transported. So let's jump in my interview with Evan Haines. See what's up. Basically, what I'm doing here is because all our musicians sounds like it hasn't affected you too much except for the live aspect of playing at big venues and whatnot. So that kind of like knocks down one question. So it sounds like it hasn't really affected your normal routine as far as like recording, practicing, etc.
No, I mean, if anything, there was a pretty big increase in recording. I mean, I did 9 records last year for people, and
Amazing.
a couple of them were like, you know, well-paying, long studio sessions. I did a number of singles from my house with my home recording stuff, and then a bunch of trial and error things. But I put out or will be putting out for whoever they are. I'm not going to release any names yet, but it's some cool stuff. I'm stoked. Like some lengthy, like 15 track records. Some of them were like 10 tracks. Some of them were just, as I said, EPs, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs. Some guys in New Jersey, someone in Nashville, another guy in New York City, and then a bunch of local people.
Well, man, I've always thought you were a great guitar player, and everybody wants a good guitar player on their album, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you got a chance to go back there since the last time we went, which was quite a while ago?
Nashville?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, since the last time you and I went, of course, I went a bunch of times with Lexi at that. After you departed, I think we went back a couple of more times. We did a full week recording session down there as well. But not, I think the last time I was there was 2016.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that wasn't too far out. I think it was 2015 when I left.
Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, I lost all my questions, but
that's fine.
They're pretty basic stuff. So it obviously hasn't affected your financial situation, which for a lot of musicians that were full-time players, they lost a good amount of income. Now I had a good job. Luckily I had a good job through the pandemic. I only lost about 5 weeks of work. And then I was trying to do solo. I don't know if I talked to you about this, but I was doing my solo thing a lot, like 2 to 3 times a week, and also playing with the Shizzle, the hip hop group. And it was St. Patrick's Day at an Irish bar here in Brunswick, and he said, "Hey, the guy, you can relate with this. He cut his hand, so he couldn't play." And he said, "Do you want to come play all night?" Absolutely, because at an Irish bar on St. Patty's, we're gonna have a good turnaround and a lot of people in and out. And I was super stoked for that, practicing like a couple hours a day for that. And I got the drop the ball on me the day before that they were shut down. So it affected me personally, my financial situation. I still had a good job, but it was really supplementing my income.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm lucky right now too. I don't have to work. I have a good partner, and actually we have as you know, we have a baby boy on the way. And so I can't really work at the moment, just because just taking care of the house and taking care of everything here, and I'm lucky I can do that. But not not everybody has that luxury. So I'm really glad to hear that it hasn't affected you that much.
It's,
Um,
I mean, it was a change. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't that like the gigs were lost and we lost income. It was the fact that I went from playing 100 to 140 dates a year. I only played 14 or 15 through the summer last year.
yeah,
And then, but the recording picked up so much that it almost offset. It wasn't quite the same, but
right.
I also wasn't gone as much. I mean, I was home, you know, most of the year last year, and if I had sessions, I did them during the day, and then I was home at night.
Yeah, man, that's really beautiful and lucky.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know, I interviewed Ben Bowman already, and he had the same situation. Like, he knows a lot of musicians, as I'm sure you do, that out of Portland, that was their bread and butter. And
yeah,
so I'm really doing this to kind of, I don't know, I maybe spark some inspiration in some other musicians to see that, okay, well, some people aren't doing that great, but some people are doing good, and we can learn from that. And I was hoping to learn from that too. I've been pretty discouraged myself, so I haven't my practice has not been the same. It's actually been back to basics, sort of, just doing finger exercises, just like you. I remember us talking about, specifically just picking just working on your pick attack and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I've been working on just things like that, because I can always get back everything else extremely quickly. um, I'll have a more serious question that I don't want to make public for you towards the end here, but we'll get
Sure,
to that. So I guess, with that being said, and covering, what you've been doing, which sounds like, man, a lot of recording sessions and being paid for it, that's beautiful. You get to do that from home. You can bounce tracks back and forth. Um, so do you personally have any advice for some of the musicians that are kind of discouraged and wishing they were still playing out and even making that, whatever it was, buck a buck a night or whatever it was.
I mean, it's obviously it's you gotta get by for what's now, but I mean, if we're talking about gaining inspiration and kind of keeping on track from where you were, it's, you know, writing and recording is kind of where it is. Like, even though like I started off a little discouraged those first 6 weeks or so, I was like, all right, like this is only going to be a few weeks, but then you kind of started writing on the wall that this was going to be more than that. And I just got back to practicing, man. Like, solo guitar makes me so happy. If someone said, here's your option, you can gig 200 dates a year, or I will give you 3 hours a day to practice solo guitar, there's a good chance I'm going to take the 3 hours of practice a day
Right.
because it's so amazing. And there's just so much more reward than playing to, 150, 200 drunks every single night. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it, but
Yeah.
it's not kind of where I'm at now. I'm kind of getting past that, and I'd rather do more musical things. It's like after a near death experience, you're kind of like, I want to like do the things I like to do.
Hmm.
So for people that are struggling with it, it's like, get ready, because when it comes back, my wife and I talk about this. It's going to be like the 60s. I mean, the world is going to open up and it's going to be free love and rock and roll again.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. I mean, everyone is jonesing to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, that's the same conversation I had, excuse me, with Ben Bowman. He said, the buildings will be there. He's like, maybe a lot of these places might have gone under, but they might, like, a lot of them were already sort of, they were already sort of
Well, they're
ready to,
venues.
yeah,
They're not going to be anything else but a venue.
right. So it'll be there. And he said the same thing you did. He says this is what I like to call the rubber band effect. We keep getting pulled further and further and further into either, depression or, everything being hold us back. And then when all this goes off, yeah, it's gonna be people are gonna be vying to go out. And I think that there's gonna be a different respect for musicians in particular. Like, we even talked about some people that maybe you went out to see a musician and you're like, you're not that excited about them, but then you're like, wow, man, they put a lot into it, and you don't even notice because it's that sort of complacency with going out and watching bands. You're like, another classic rock band, but maybe
Yeah,
maybe those guys will still be doing well, or maybe double. I see the same thing, man, and I hope for the same thing. So his advice sounds similar to yours, which is stay vigilant, because once the venues come back, it's gonna be like, hey, want to play like a
yeah.
couple times this
Everyone's
month?
everyone's going to be doing it. And, I have to give huge props to the Frog and Turtle in Westbrook because, like, I'm still playing there 3-4 times a month, and like I hadn't started playing there until October, and then when they cut out vocals, I was already prepared. I was like, sweet,
Yeah,
I know like 5 sets of tunes of like modern popular songs as like instrumentals. So
yeah,
we got a bass player and a drummer, and we just go and crush it a couple of times a month, and it's great.
yeah, man. Yeah, I heard about that. I didn't even know about that, and then maybe it was around the same time. Um, um, my girlfriend Amber, she pays attention to all this news a lot closer than I do, because
Mm,
pretty busy taking care of the house, the kids, chickens, wood stove, making sure everything's cleaned up and all that. I
mm.
don't really get that much time, but she does pay attention to that stuff. And she told me, she was like, yeah, no more vocals. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, I don't gotta I don't gotta practice vocals this week. I mean, I can just work on my guitar, which is my strong point is my vocals. So I just uh I was like, all right, cool. This will give me an opportunity to get a little stronger on my instrument. And I've been doing something I never thought I would do, which is, regardless of how much experience I got from UMA, uh, and how much experience I've got from just playing over the years and learning songs, I've been looking at guys who just teach, and like just taking every good aspect of their teaching and like making it my own, and just doing
Yeah,
really basic stuff like finger exercises and junk, just because I haven't been playing as
totally.
much. And it is rewarding. It really is. And also, if we do, because this is something else Ben and I talked about, and I want to get your opinion. Um, because this may not be the last pandemic, right? Because we may
Nah,
see a future of different things, like bird flu was something that they predicted back in 2006 that would be something that would be a problem later. And uh,
right.
so if that be the case, I don't want to get discouraged, and I never want to stop doing music. So him and I have some plans for the shizzle for later, to really beef up live streams and whatnot. And I don't know if you caught that on Facebook or not, on Restream, but we did like a 2.5 hour show with everything set up, like the lights. We went
Nice.
to his garage, set everything up like we did a real show, and then we had like all of our audience members on a big 55-inch TV, and it was a blast, man. We didn't get any like audio response back from anybody because they're all muted, but man, it was just good to play again. And it
Yeah.
felt really good. And I think that may be the future. It may be in and out. I think that we'll, like you said, we'll have venues and they'll be playing out. But
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see it, you know, maybe I'm thinking a little bit too deep into this, but I mean, we just watched gas prices go up nearly 80 cents in the last week.
mhm,
So, I mean, we might be crawling out of this pandemic, but I mean, if we're estimated to see gas prices at $4 a gallon again, I mean,
mm.
you already have financial crisis. What are you going to do when gas prices are that
Yeah,
high?
no one's gonna
I
want
mean,
to
that's going to
travel.
bury people. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, it's going to favor the wealthy. So it's like, are
Mm.
we still going to be playing at these venues? Maybe. I mean, people are jonesing to get out. I think, even at gas prices at $5 a gallon, I think if the world opens up, people are going to bite it and just
They're gonna be
go.
carpooling.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's going to be the 60s all over.
Yeah, man.
Everyone's going to get those VW vans and start cruising from everywhere.
I hope so. I would love to see that. It's really funny. There's something else I'm doing. I'm watching this guy. I don't want to say his name. He's on YouTube, and he reacts to old songs. Like people
Mm,
send him. He they'll he's a younger guy, and he's just really positive dude, and he's never heard like Aerosmith or anything like that, and people are like, man, you got to check this out, and he hears it and he's like mind blown. He's like, this is the best
Yeah.
music I've ever heard. And I think you're right too. Maybe the best music might come out of this because people are, they're not, there's no real advantage to learning a lot of people's songs right now. This is a time to write. You know,
Mm.
this is this might be, just like in the 60s there's um people were against war and they were protesting, and there was a lot of songs about that. And I feel like we're going to be there pretty soon. But yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah,
Definitely.
I'd love to see it. I really would. I I still haven't even got a chance to do. Waiting for the baby to be born. Personally, for me to be able to really dive into my album, I had an album planned out for a while, but I haven't got a chance to even touch it. And I know that some people are still working, and people are working jobs they don't want to do right now. I met
Mm.
somebody. This is a good example. I met somebody um, at Wendy's in the window, and I had to wait for my food, and he was just shooting the shit with him. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm a tech, and I'm not working right now. And I was making 75, $80,000 a year, and now it's completely gone. And he goes,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, he's Python certified, and he's in the Wendy's window. I'm like, man, it's just Python's hard. Python's a programming language that they use
Yeah.
for automation and stuff like that. And it's sad. It is like I have a certification now. I'm Google certified, but I can't, like, I can't get any like remote work right at the moment. I have to get like either AWS certified or something like that.
Mm.
And it takes a lot. It takes out of my practice time too. When I go for another certification, I'm over and this is my studio, and I'm here 2 to 3 hours a day, studying, watching videos, taking notes, taking tests. It's arduous, but yeah, man, I really want to get back to it badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so okay, I remember one of the other questions that I asked Ben was, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because it's an opinion, and I know people are super mad about opinions right now. But
Whatever.
do you have any beef or any problems with the way that this was handled, like are the mask mandates and all that stuff? Because me personally, I do not care about wearing a mask. As far as I'm concerned, I'm protected in the wintertime from just regular stuff. Like I haven't even got a cold or anything this year. So
I know.
do
I'm a
you have any?
germaphobe, man. I would have worn a mask anyway if someone gave me one.
So how do you feel? So how do you feel? Do you feel like it was handled well, or do you feel like um, could have been done differently? Or
I mean, there was a lot of risk. I mean, if you would have pulled the trigger earlier, we would have just been in it earlier.
mm,
If we would have, maybe if we had better mandates and stricter laws in the beginning, maybe
mm,
it could have passed.
yeah,
I just don't think it was going to be possible. Like there
right,
was too many people infected, too many countries were on the rise
yeah,
before it became public, before
right,
it became like a media thing. I
right,
mean, so we're saying my incident was early February. I go into the doctors in March. No way you had COVID in February. Like it wasn't here yet.
mm,
Now, October, November. Well, maybe it was COVID. There weren't too many viruses that were like inflaming your heart to the point
mm,
of like cardiac
right,
issues. So could that have been resolved? Probably not. I mean, my kids' daycare, they're from like Eastern Europe, and they had been traveling, and they had just come through like Eastern Europe through China and back to America like the end of January.
mm,
So it's like, I don't know. Like it was
yeah,
inevitable. It was just, could it have been handled better? Maybe, maybe
yeah,
not. Like, is it Trump's fault? No, it happened.
yeah,
Maybe it was man made. Maybe it wasn't. Like,
right,
we, the little people, 90% of the world are never going to know.
mm,
And we just got
that's
to
true.
kind of ride this wave.
That's true. Yeah, and it's a tough question to ask and answer because it's because a lot of people have opinions, and you can ride off that. Like a lot of people are like, man, you know, I'm not wearing a mask or whatever. Or I mean, I don't think that's a huge deal for me.
Right.
It is really strange. I
Yeah.
mean, when everybody started wearing them and actually like following through, and then all the places like, you know, your grocery stores everywhere was like, you got to wear them to come in. It was like,
Yeah,
wow.
it was a little odd. I mean, I busted out my grandfather's World War I like chemical warfare mask,
The
and it
gas
was
mask.
awesome to like. I literally walked into the grocery store. The dudes behind the register were like, "Yes,
Yes.
that's what we need." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got it. Smells terrible."
I tried to wear a respirator out the door, and
And I
ambulance.
guess the big piece for me, it's as far as handling the situation. We need to start bringing it back, or like what we saw with this was like Maine. Maine was very successful,
Mm-hmm.
and is it, I have so many friends at work who are lean a little harder right, and they think Janet just completely blew everything and it's blown out of proportion. Then
Mm-hmm.
everyone on the left side that I'm friends with is like, oh man, like she is killing it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's killing it. Like she's killing business and she's also doing a great job. So it's
Yeah.
like, it is what it is. The joke at the Frog and Turtle between me and the guys I play with is, where the cutoff was 9 o'clock because you can't get COVID after 9 o'clock at a bar right now. It's like, oh, so we have a hard Janet at 9, right?
Yeah.
Hard Janet. Take a hard Janet right around 9. No more music. COVID comes out.
It is so it's hard to there's a lot of duality to it, right? Because in the inverse, the shutdowns have pumped up numbers for other things, right? So
Yeah.
like, well, with suicide, uh, drug use, drug overdoses, alcohol use, alcohol abuses, all that stuff. And actually, I heard this was a weird thing I heard, but it sounds normal, right? A lot of people going into the dentist. Like,
Oh
why?
yeah, man.
Because people are at
Might as
home with
well.
their kids, so they're like grinding their teeth.
They're grinding their teeth down, man. Like, you know, so like I can't really say it's affecting my oldest kid, but like I think he just has some natural tendencies anyway. But like he's like starting to bite his nails, and I'm just like, no way. Like, why are you doing that? You're 4. But my wife being in the mental health fields,
Mm,
mostly working with kids with autism and stuff. I mean, she sees the wear and tear on teachers and everyone else in it because it like changes the demographic of that work so much because you're in a one-to-one with a, someone with autism wearing a mask, you're wearing a mask, and it's like the communication is like so much stronger. So she's like adapted sign language because she's also working with the school of the deaf,
yeah.
and she's like, you know, they're doing really well, and it's great. Like they have a small group of people and they're being successful the best they can under these conditions, and I think they are being successful. The parents are happy, the kids are making strides. But then I go to daycare and it's like, okay, there's like 12 kids here and they just started wearing masks over the last month or two, and I was
Mhm.
like, but I mean for the last year they weren't wearing masks. And I'm like, there was a lot of struggle, especially as parents. Like, you know, was it safe to send your kids to daycare? And that's like where my wife and I struggled a lot.
Yeah.
It was hard because we're like, do we send them this week? Do we not send them this week? I'm like, I don't know. Let's scour Facebook and see like what all the parents have done this weekend.
Yeah, just get a consensus.
Yeah, because
Man,
I'm
we
like,
got to.
I know parents that are like clearly they're still going out to restaurants all the time. They're
Yep.
traveling across the country to their
Mm,
second and third homes, and I'm like,
mm.
well, I know they've been gone this week. Let's hold the kids this week.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, we do similar things, and I hope that all these interviews can inspire some musicians to not revolutionize, man, revolutionize. Let's make, if we're gonna do this, let's make the internet like our new platform, and hopefully once we get out of this, we can kind of bounce between both of. That's my hope. My hope is to do some live streams and do some live gigs again, but I'm ready to sit here and do it if I need to.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I push videos. I try and get a video out at least one or two a week. And just every time I sit down and practice, just take a video of like whatever I'm practicing, put it up. Just make yourself aware, make yourself visible, make sure people know that you're like out there and you're doing it and you're working on it and
Mm,
perfecting the craft. Cause it's like people want to see that you're still going. I mean, I haven't heard from so many musicians I was playing with, and I'm like, are they even playing? Like the fact that like, you know, am I gonna get take this gig from this guy who hasn't played in, 15
mm,
months?
mm-hmm.
Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really care. I'm just like, I'll play with whatever at this point. I mean, not whatever, but like I'm trying to like stay in a certain genre. I don't want to go learn 40 songs for no reason anymore. I'm kind of
Right.
tapped out.
Yeah.
But, if I have to do a small gig, I did one the other day with Sarah Richardson. It was fantastic. We played all of that Joni Mitchell record, Blue.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, it was great. We played in a nice big room. There was only like 25 people spread out across like God, it must have been 15,000 square feet, and
Yeah, I've
it
been
was
listening
fun.
to your videos, dude. They sound killer. Seems like you're hard on yourself though. Like,
Oh, of course. I took a lesson. Did you ever meet Sean McGowan?
doesn't sound familiar now.
He was a teacher at UMA right before I started there, and just like this masterful solo jazz guitarist. He's out in Denver, Colorado now. I believe it's Denver. At least he's teaching at the University of Denver, I believe. And like he is mind blowing how good he is. So I took a lesson with him. It was like almost 2 hours long. We just talked and picked apart things and just discussed them. And I was like, God, man, there's just still so much to know and so much to learn. And your awareness of the instrument is amazing. Like it really takes so long to develop that. And like, granted, I've been like at this solo jazz thing for probably the better part of 3, 4 years now. I think I started when Silas was born.
Hmm.
And yeah, like just learning the material and getting the technique and then making it your own is like
Mm,
it's part of digestion. It's like this really weird human flow that like is so hard to do it on the spot, but at the same time, the more you do it, the faster it becomes. And I didn't realize that till this past summer, where like I was like songs were just happening so fast. Like I could open up a real book and like pick through the melody and be like, all right, and then like start going through the harmony and be like, yeah, it's close enough. And then you just interpret the rest with like your guidelines in mind. And then I was like, oh yeah,
yeah.
this is what guys are doing. Or at
Yeah,
least that's the
finding your voice. I think that's we've talked about that in the past when we used
yeah.
to to do the country gig. I think that's probably one of the hardest things, and I feel like I have, but I haven't. I feel like you ever have those moments where you're like, I got it, and then you're like, maybe I don't.
Oh,
Maybe.
totally. Yeah. The second I think I have it, and then the next morning when I wake up and go back, I'm like, oh yeah, no, no. I think I had a moment that night. Is all I had. Like I think
Yeah, man. When you get a chance to
Rosenwinkel had
play
this
with
really
somebody.
great thing
Yeah.
where he was like, he was talking about it in an interview where he's like, you have this night where you literally are in the stream of consciousness where everything is happening for you. It's all there. You are connected. And the next night you go to play and you are nowhere near that. And you're just
Mm,
frustrated and you can't find it. And
yeah.
I get that between sets. Like I'll go and play a set and the first set will be amazing. It's always the first set that's great. And then I'll
Mm.
get into the second set. I'm like, this is a disaster. Like, what is happening right now? Like
Mm.
nothing works. Nothing's playing. I can barely even tune the guitar.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I'm just like, whatever. And then like once you throw it out and you get like 10 songs in, and you're just like so mad, then it all comes back sometimes. And you're just like, oh yeah, I just got to stop caring.
I totally relate, dude. I totally relate with that because that happens to me constantly. Like when I just recently really started to push myself to get into the studio and do this stuff, and like I just realized like I started just throwing some stuff on and like random key and be like, man, this I'm rusty. This sounds
Mm.
like textbook like melody. You know what I mean? And just can't find the groove and can't get into it and just so sometimes I have to walk away from it, honestly. Like
Yeah.
Try
And
again
it's
tomorrow.
always, for me, it's always finding like the guy, like finding a guy or a musician or a band that like inspires you to kind of think in a way. So like
Mm.
in the spring, like Ted Green is like this time of year I get really into Ted Green. And then Ted Green every year kind of evolves into Julian Lage. And then now I got Pasquale Grasso, who's like another solo jazz guitarist that I'm like, I got to learn his stuff because he is the greatest. Like he's the new great. He's like 31 or 32 years old and he is the best. Like hands down the best guitarist alive. I don't know anyone that can physically do anything he can do.
Wow.
It's nuts. And like, so then I learned a couple of his things. And then like all of a sudden I get overwhelmed and I'm like, I just want to play a rock tune for a little bit. I just need to like go there. But it's like it's a 4 month wave about. And I
Yeah.
ride that wave until I get exhausted.
Hmm.
And then I just kind of chill out. And then I hit another wave sometime in September. And then I usually chill out for like all of the winter and just say, I want to play Zelda, man. That's all I want to do in the winter is play Zelda. Right?
I got into
Skyward Sword.
I love Zelda, man. I just bought Hyrule Warriors, but I got into Tommy Emmanuel for a little while.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
but it was I think I may have had that moment where I was like, I want to learn something hard, and then I started watching it, and I was like,
Oh,
mm.
you just got to do it. You just got to do it. You just get the transcription. I remember like with the Julian Lodge stuff, I listened to it. And I'm like, wow, man, his sense of time is insane. His abilities are crazy. His technique is flawless. And then I just picked it
Clarity.
apart. Yeah. I mean,
Every
every note.
note is just, oh my
So
god.
I did it. I just started buying up all the transcriptions I could find. And I just sit there and pick it apart and be like, okay, I get it. Like, I don't get it, but like, I'm able
Right.
to like play through it and then like try and just like adapt it. And then over time, you just kind of like add it into your vocabulary.
And I think sometimes just like you're saying, you jump around with different artists, and sometimes it's like one artist that like clicks the light bulb. It's like I've been watching this one guy, and he kind of reveres other guitar players, but he's really good.
Mm,
But like with him, like the way like some people's teaching style clicks with you differently, and or
yeah.
looking at the fretboard a different way or something like that. That's something that I've been really seeing is like, oh, I never looked at the fretboard that way. No one's ever
Yeah.
kind of put it that way, and then all of a sudden everything starts to sort of mesh and click. Um, so yeah, man. I do want to ask you a question once I shut the recording off, but
Sure.
I really appreciate you doing this. And do you have any final thoughts before you want to say anything to everybody? And
No, I mean, I think everyone just needs to kind of, I'm hoping like my prayer for like all of this is that everyone is just taking the time to reel it in from social media and really focus on themselves during this time because this was the time to do it. This is the time to like not reinvent yourself but like become concrete again, like with yourself, like be spiritual but also be honest on the person that you are and just like coming back into the world, like just offering being a better person again because granted things were fine before, but it's like, there's still so much just stupid cruelty and like belligerent thoughts that didn't matter. And obviously, like, Facebook is just a disaster. Like, it's just all these people that don't know what they're talking about most of the time. And it's great. I hope they stay there. And they're probably going to stay there. But like when the world comes back, I'm just hoping that like everyone took the time to really like hone it in, make themselves a better person, and just
mm,
give the world the best that they can be.
don't despair, man. Don't
Don't
despair.
just,
don't let the world don't let the world drag you down.
yeah, seriously.
All right, thanks, Evan, man. I will. Thanks
No,
for doing
thank
this,
you,
man.
man. Thank you.